Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Work at Home Rockstar Podcast. I'm excited for today's guest. He is the founder and CEO of Five Capitals LLC. And what he does is he helps business leaders to provide them with practical tools, coaching, and resources to help them if they're stuck or frustrated. So I'm excited to be rocking out today with Brandon Schaefer. Hey, Brandon, you ready to rock?
Tim, let's do this. Come on. Excited to be here.
Beautiful. So we always start off here on a good note. Tell me a story of success that we can be inspired by.
Yeah, sure. About 12 years ago, I was just a cog of the machine. I was an employee of a consulting company, one of their key consultants, and a number of things happened above my pay grade. And the founder CEO decided to retire, to quit, to actually move 4 hours north. And I was left literally overnight. I was actually in Australia, and my cell phone got cut off because no one had paid the bill and realized, hey, I'm out of a job. I did have it's not all doom and gloom. I did have a book of clients that I asked to come with me, and about 40% did. The other 60% decided to go with other people. It was a kind of a team effort. And so there I was, young family, trying to figure out how do I kind of climb out from here. And the first thing I did is I asked for referrals from the 40%. A few did give some referrals. And I started working the phones, decided not to have any kind of victim mentality. It's kind of
Mm,
survive or die mode. And out of that came Five Capitals, coaching consulting. Now we do certification 2, 3 times a year. We've got a tribe of 40 coaches all over, mostly in the US, but some in other countries as well. And through a lot of grit, hard work, we dug out of that ditch, if you will. And it's a story of success. And looking back, I'm not, don't, it's, I was in the twilight zone, not sure how I did it. It was it's all kind of foggy, but God got me through, and here we are today.
wow. It's funny how many of the good notes are following a bad note too, right? Something bad happens, and all of a sudden, something good comes out of it, right?
Yeah, isn't that right? Isn't that the truth, right? I mean, we all learn from our failures. If we allow failure to be our teacher, we can get a ton out of it. Probably way more than our success is the reality.
Yeah.
But it takes grit and hard work to be that introspective and also get up every day. And when you find ourselves in that extended season of the chips being down.
Yeah, absolutely. So now that particular bad note though wasn't really your fault. I mean, it was something that was out of your control, but I'm wondering, can you share a bad note that maybe was something that was a mistake that you had made that we can learn from?
Absolutely. So I've got another side of my world, which is in the land side of things. So we have a rentals and real estate company called Hammock Coast Life. We're just north of Charleston, South Carolina, and we were bringing CEOs to this part of the world, and I was so sick of giving all my money to Marriott. And it's like, wait a minute, we could have we could have some condos, we could have some rentals, and we could kind of pay ourselves rather than paying the big hotel chains. And so I naively, having seen a lot of success in the last decade in other areas, just kind of naively thought, "Oh yeah, I can get into this line of work." And different, very very different industry than my background, and it was a bad note. Just huge learning curve. Didn't know the industry. Didn't know how the cycles went. We kind of launched and with a handful of properties in March, which is the best time to launch, because you're going into your busy season, spring break into Labor Day in the US. But then we didn't really fully embrace the off season.
Mm,
And, are we gonna lay off employees? Are we gonna cut back? Can we survive? End up having to borrow money, first 2 off seasons, and it took us a long time to kinda get our feet under us. And so, we're still clucking along. We've made some progress. We're in the black, but it has been some hard learnings. It's been some bad notes. And so one of the key learnings is, just because 'cause you're successful in one area, don't get ahead of your skis, if you will. Don't think that it's going to be the Midas touch and success in other areas that you don't have decades of experience in.
yeah.
And so that definitely is an example of learning the hard way. That lesson for sure.
Wow. Yeah, and another part of what you just said too is that whole, up and down situation that happens too. Like, uh, a lot of people don't really prepare for that because I mean, just about every business does have good seasons and bad seasons, right? It's not always up, 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 and actually, it's not always a straight line either. You've got that bump. So, what did you learn kind of coming out of that? To sort of prepare for those bad seasons. Like, what do you do now?
Yeah, great question. And we had 2 more big bumps. COVID shut everything down. That was a terrible bump from a
Mm,
rental real estate perspective. And then we were in an accelerated growth season. And then with the interest rates going up, all of a sudden, a lot of our network and contacts saying, "Hey, it doesn't make sense to buy a condo. We can put our money here or put our
mhm,
money there." So that accelerated growth that we were seeing because of the low interest rates, was another bump. So now we pay much more attention to the broader industry, broader cycle, and we work really hard at forecasting and anticipating, what's gonna happen in a big picture perspective. And in the other places where I'm more of an expert in, been involved in for a long time, like coaching and consulting, you don't think about that at all. It's much more micro and just making sure you're doing a great job for the company, great job for the client. So that was a huge thing that we now understand is you gotta be looking and understanding industry-wide what's happening from a trend standpoint. And then the other thing that we had no idea about is that in different industries are completely different cycles, different selling cycles, different growth cycles. Over here on the coaching and consulting, it's monthly and quarterly. Over here on rentals and real estate, it's annual. And so
mhm,
if you're not looking at things financially from an annual, even just a rolling 18 months perspective, you're going to get caught. It's just a no brainer. You're going to get caught. You're going to get caught with too much and you don't have the team and support, or you're gonna get caught with too little. And now all of a sudden you've got cash flow issues, workers, what are we gonna do with all sorts of things. And so, that those would be 2 things that, when you're just kind of blinders on in one specific area of expertise, moving to another, there's just it's as wide as it is deep, the things you gotta learn and understand. And you're not even gonna know how to ask the right questions
yeah.
getting into it because you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah. Well, and when it comes to like workers like having too many on board and all that stuff, like this is something that if you knew ahead of time, because I know that in the tourism industry, for example, you have seasonal workers. You have, things bump up in the summer, so you hire people on for the summer, but then you're going to let them go. Is that kind of like if you know that you're going to only be hiring them for 3 months, then you're not going to get into a trouble of like, oh, well, now I have to fire a bunch of people that I just because they're expecting to be there for the long haul, right? If you hire them without that expectation?
Exactly, and what a great example. I mean, looking back, how embarrassing it was because some of these employees have been in the industry for a long time, and they're like, "Really? You're making all these promises? You're gonna hire us for the foreseeable future, and we get a place here?" They'd never heard any of that language before, right? Everyone's like, "You know what? Hey, we can guarantee the summer, we'll see how the fall goes. Probably have to move you to hourly, whatnot." We weren't saying any of that. And so we were sounding great, but really it's not we weren't sounding great because we had it all together. We were sounding great because of our naivety.
Mm.
And so, that was, we had a lot of I told you so's in that first year.
Yeah. But maybe that might have helped you a little bit because the people were kind of expecting that. Right?
Exactly. Exactly. They knew it better than we did. We just didn't know it.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about, honing your craft, practicing. What is it that you do to stay sharp in your industry?
Yeah. So first thing is, I'm never too far along or too big of an expert to not have clients, right? And it's kind of like the CEO of Southwest Airlines. I don't know if he still does it, but for a long time he would go and he would help with the bags Thanksgiving Day, the biggest day of the year, just to kind of know and remember what it's like, kind of boots on the ground, to not just be that kind of ivory tower
Mm,
CEO. And so, I always have a handful of coaching clients and always will. I try to prioritize now more locally, kind of be involved in the community or prioritize clients that are in my traditional kind of sweet spot that I know I'm a good coach to them and to their company. But that's the thing is always be a practitioner. It keeps you sharp, helps you to keep learning. And I've actually coached a lot of people who are overseeing something that they used to be in, and now they're out of touch. They've gotten
Mm,
so high up in management or leadership. They haven't been on the manufacturing floor or in an office or with a client in years. And so they kind of, they drink their own Kool-Aid now. And what happens is now those people who are boots on the ground, they tell them information that doesn't make sense or tells them information they don't want to hear. And they kind of just always go with their own opinion. So
yeah.
always be a practitioner or always get your hands dirty on a regular basis. It's going to help make sure you're both substantive and relevant as a leader.
And I think that's becoming even more important because I think like the landscape in every business is changing quickly. I mean, we've got a lot of things going on in the world and it's going fast. I mean, so I think that now, like you say, I mean, you might be sitting in your ivory tower going like, no, 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 I spent 30 years in that industry doing whatever it is, but it's not the same anymore. And they're probably getting that from their workforce going like, but it's not working the way you say that it's supposed to work. And they wouldn't know. They wouldn't be on the ground figuring that out and realizing that, and if they were able to solve the problem 30 years ago and create a system that works, maybe they might be able to do it now if they knew what that problem was.
Exactly. 2 quick examples is I'm working with a leader who, for a long time over the last year, just has resisted AI. It's just like, "Whatever, it's a fad, it's a trend,"
Mhm,
and his marketing team is like, "No, no, it's coming, and our competitors are using it, and
mhm.
and and B, it could really help us actually," right? So, could solve some of our challenges, some of our issues. So that's an example where, you think and then something new comes along, and you got to roll up your sleeves and learn right along with it.
Yeah,
So social media, AI, just all of that for these more seasoned leaders that maybe they're dismissive or they're not taking the time to understand or learn. Had a similar situation with a female CEO runs a large interior design company and was really pushing back on her team with designs and trends and whatnot. It turns out she hadn't designed an office or a home in a long time,
mm,
and so was just, found herself largely out of touch, hadn't been to a conference or, anything like that. And, both of those examples, they had to eat their humble pie and roll up their sleeves and get back in the game a bit.
yeah. Well, AI is I like that you brought that up because I think that there's a lot of people that are using AI improperly, and so you can see a lot of, like, bad examples of how AI can be used, and I think that a lot of people might be kind of dismissing it because of that. However, there are a lot of people that are using AI very well, and actually you wouldn't know it. Like, that's the thing, right? I mean, if you're using it properly, then you wouldn't know that it's AI generating the things that you're putting out there for marketing, so you might, like you say, you might be leaving some great opportunities on the table if you are one of those people that can figure out how to use AI properly. If you did that now, right, as opposed to in 5 years, you'll be ahead of everybody else, right? Because people
That's
are
exactly
figuring
right.
it out.
Absolutely. I mean, AI is a lot of things. And one of the things it is it's a souped up, more customized, intelligent version of Google,
Mhm.
right? And so, the things that you're Googling today, you should be using Chat GPT. You should be using OpenAI. You should be using, hey, what are the top three news stories today? What are the top five trends in bicycling today? And the biggest thing AI can do is it can help intelligently save you time.
Yeah.
If it's market research, questions you have, answers you need, it's going to give you not a list of potential responses, but a consolidated, formed up one or two, three, four, five bullets of consolidated responses.
Yep. Yeah. I think you're hitting on it. Like basically the way I'm understanding AI, and there was somebody on YouTube or whatever that talked about it. He says it's not It's not artificial intelligence, it's not actually intelligent at all. All it is it's fast, and that I get, because it does what you just said. Like, I mean, I could spend hours on Google searching and researching and compiling all this information, and it does it in a second. Oh, it's not that it's like, if you tell it to create something from scratch, it's not going to do it. It's literally going and scouring pages and pages on the internet and pulling out the best ideas that it can find, and then compiling that for you. Now you can take that, and that's basically all the research that you needed to do was in one, not one, probably several questions that you wrote into ChatGPT, and then it'll take all that information, and then now you can take that and intelligently use it. So, who knows? It may start to make those types of decisions in the future, but I mean, it's got no soul, so I don't know if it will. I think that what it's going to do is it's just going to make all of your research just go away. Now you don't have to actually spend any time on Google. It's like you said, instead of searching it on Google, you literally go into Chat GPT or whatever that OpenAI is, type in what you want, a few prompts, and boom, you're gonna have some real good information to go from.
That's exactly right. Yeah, well said. And if you embrace it and use it in its maximized way, you're going to find it brings a lot of value and a lot of help.
Yeah, right on. So now let's talk a little bit about the marketing side of it, and well, actually maybe even the sales side of it. Just keeping that hat full and making sure that there's more money coming in than is going out.
Yeah. So, from a macro kind of last 15, 20 years, before we had the dot-com boom of the early 2000s, all you had was mail, print, and in person. And all of a sudden, the digital age exploded and overswung for a long period of time.
Hmm.
But what's interesting, just to summarize, is face to face is king again. And so what I'm telling people from a business development standpoint is it's about, thinking about how to win friends and influence people, right? That famous Dale Carnegie book. It's about shaking hands, looking them in the eye. It's about getting to the Rotary clubs and the Chamber of Commerce and the local events and having your shtick and your spiel down from a business development standpoint. And in this digital age, there's things you need that validate your storefront. Yeah, your website, your social media, your consistency, your legitimacy. But outside of that, people, with COVID are just a lot of them anyway are just oversaturated and overdone with everything digital.
Yeah.
I even find myself, oh my gosh, I've got 4 hours of Zoom meetings today. Here we go, Microsoft Teams, what have you. And, one of the reasons why I've gone back to prioritizing local clients is because even though it's maybe a little bit inefficient, I gotta drive to the office, drive to their coffee shop, they gotta come to mine, whatever it may be. It's as equally refreshing to just sit in a room with an actual whiteboard, talk things through, sometimes even pen and paper. And so when I'm talking to people about top of the funnel sales, I'm telling them, don't overdo it digitally. Actually get in your car and engage it literally
Hmm.
and think about the places that you can interact face to face and prioritize that because it's going to be refreshing to you and it's going to be traction building because there's been a bit of an eroding of trust. I think maybe even a significant eroding of trust with all things digital. How many bot emails do we get that have worked so hard to make it sound like it's real, right? All the LinkedIn messages. One of the ways you can cut through the noise is to consider your region and actually employ a face-to-face strategy rather than a digital one.
Well, I love that. And I find myself, even when I get an email, wondering, is this a person or is this a bot? So I think you're probably right. And I mean, it's gonna get, I think, crazier. So I think that I think you've got a really good strategy there. If you start to, get into the swing of getting into person, well, then you're gonna be ahead of that because I think that it is gonna swing in that direction. So nice.
Yeah, one of the things we say is, you know what, big is out, boutique is in. No one trusts big anymore. No one
Mhm.
trusts big government, big banks, big box stores. No one gets excited about going to Walmart. Right? And so all these even big companies are thinking about how can they come across small to you, come across customized to you. And it's actually the biggest organizations that are doing it the best. I mean,
Yeah.
now, Marriott is testing face recognition technology that'll scan your face as you walk in the lobby. All right. You'll then get a prompt on your phone to your room number and your digital key. First class on Delta now. You can pick beforehand, 24 hours beforehand, what food you want on the flight. They're customizing your food options. Even Coca-Cola. What did they do 8 years ago now? They put your name on your can, right? So everything is work. Everybody's working out. And so if you're a smaller company, you actually have a competitive advantage. You can actually be small, you can be customized, and you can connect into your city and your region, because that's what everyone wants. The number one training Starbucks does is how to remember names, faces, and drinks.
Wow.
Right? Starbucks is trying to take this giant company and say, "Hey, Tim, you want the usual?" Right? It's back to that 1980s sitcom Cheers, that everyone's wanting, right? You used to be, it's not what you know, it's who you know. Now it's who can I trust,
Yeah.
right? That's the question everyone's at. Who can I trust? And what's the easiest thing to trust? What you know. I
Yep.
trust what I know. And it's hard to trust big because how do you get to know that? But I can trust farm to table. I can trust regional wine. I can trust owner operated coffee shop. All that kind of buy local um, trend isn't going away for all the psychological factors I just mentioned.
Yeah. I'm living proof of that because that's exactly the direction that I'm moving into. Trying to buy from more local farms, trying to buy from more local businesses, and yeah, I think you're right, and it ties right into what you said before about having face-to-face meetings instead of, the emails and the Zoom stuff. So, oh, I love it. I think you're ahead of the trend.
We're trying to be, for sure.
So then let's talk about the other sides. And what about these, tools? What do you do? What do you use in terms of tools, to get success in your business?
Yeah, so a couple tools to think about. One is a prioritizing tool. It's called the five capitals, and we use this a lot. And this is just a real easy one to kind of think through. What's the trajectory I should be going on, in my life? We're talking kind of milestone here with the next quarter coming up, and so we talk about there's five things, five buckets to consider to help kind of bring about fulfillment, discernment, and direction to your life. And the first one, we call it spiritual capital, right? Every person owes it to themselves to think through, who am I? What am I all about? And why was I put on this planet?
Mm,
And so spiritual capital is knowing your why. It's that big picture sense of I've got a vision for my life. I know my passions. I know what problems I want to solve in the world. And I've got values, vision and values. I'm going to be a person who is fill in the blank, who is excellent, who is serving, who is kind, who is humble. What are the top 3 to 5 things you're all about? And the reason why spiritual capital is number 1 and so powerful is that if you take the time to dig deep and know your why, right? No one can make it up. No one can come up with it for you. No one can take that away from you. It's the only one of the 5 things we're going to talk about that's internal, right? You wake up one day and your company's bankrupt. It's Enron, it's Goldman Sachs, your job's terminated. You still have your identity and calling. You still know who you are and what you're called to do. Now you got to go find a different context to do it. Hopefully it's a good context and who you are, what you do, and your why aligns with their kind of company brand, company vision and values. But you're not sunk, right? You're okay. But hey, you put your identity in your stuff, your status, your job, your title, right? Now when that temporary stuff goes away, when now you are maybe depressed. Maybe
mm,
now you do kind of feel screwed. But Simon Sinek talks about the power of the why. And we help a lot of leaders think about that from an internal, personal, individual perspective, right? And then you can have larger whys. You can have, what's our team going after? What's our company going after? Goals and priorities in light of who we are, what we do. That's the kind of the first framework, the first bucket. And if you know your why, then you can find your tribe. And that's the second bucket. It's relational capital. And all of us want healthy and productive relationships. And even as individual as we are in the Western world, we were all created for a community. There's a reason why solitary confinement is the greatest form of punishment, right? And why Zoom took off and FaceTime took off during COVID is because we want to be connected to people.
yeah.
And so individualization is fine, but it's in the context always, whether we realize it or not, of community. And we want community to be two things, healthy and productive. No one wakes up thinking, oh, I'm so excited to go to this toxic culture where Everyone's cynical and negative and
Yeah.
backbiting, and so spiritual, relational, they go together, right? It's about knowing who I am. In light of who I am, how can I find my tribe? Right? And that tribe should be hopefully one that's healthy and productive rather than toxic and busy. And we enjoy and hopefully we're inclusive, not exclusive. Hopefully we enjoy our tribe, but not to the judgment and detriment of other tribes. Right? We seek first to understand, then be understood. That famous Franklin Covey quote. But those are two. I don't necessarily know if we want to go through all five, but those are two big buckets that if people would just think through their why and their who, right? That is miles down the road to finding a greater sense of joy and fulfillment. I know what I'm doing and I enjoy who I'm with, right?
Yeah.
We are the sum total of our three closest friends. That can be scary depending on who your friends are. That can be great. But just figuring out your why and the who, man, that's going to bring just such clarity, direction, and focus. And you'll know why you're not happy here and why you are happy there.
Yeah.
For example.
Yeah. I think that's really great advice. And I mean, I think that when we think about, why are you going to work? I think a lot of people probably answer that question with because I need to make money, right? And it's
Mhm.
unfortunate that that's how things are. Because like you say, I think that eventually you realize that that's not why you're here. And I think that that's where the disconnection is, right? I don't know if you do believe in a soul, then there would be a disconnection between what you're doing and why you're doing it. But the thing is that money follows value. And so, if your why is to provide value for some reason, it's something that you're good at or something that you love to do, well, then the money just follows that. And you just focus on the thing that makes you happy or the thing that makes you feel fulfilled rather than I just need to get that paycheck. Right. Does that make sense?
It makes complete sense, and here's the deal, don't let money be your excuse because then you're a slave to that paycheck the rest of your life, and slavery is no way to live. We know that, and so, how do you find freedom though then, right? If that's the question, because everyone's gonna agree that no one wants to be a slave to the man, slave to the job,
Yeah.
slave to the paycheck. So then, okay, then what, right? And we always say you've got to have a crock pot mentality. You've got to think long term. You got to think about, I'm going to be different in 3 years. That's what we work is a 3-year transition plan. If you think about a 6 months transition plan, you're going to be disappointed, right? Everything takes longer than you think. And so I always tell people, hey, never overestimate what you can do in 6 months. Never underestimate what you can do in 3 years.
Yeah.
Most people look back and I say, where were you 3 months, 6 months ago, or first of the year even? They're like, oh well, not much has changed. Where were you 3 years ago? Where were you 5 years ago? A ton has changed. I was still in school, or we didn't have our third kid yet, whatever it may be. So, if you have that long-term mentality and you create a plan of incremental changes, saving money for 6 months, now I can do this. Now I can pay off that. Now, right? It's a march towards your desired outcomes, your why, your ideal life, whatever it may be, uh, through daily decisions that add up over time. So if you can create that 3-year vision, that 3-year plan, if you can be consistently and stick to it, that's going to get you on a trajectory change that you get excited about 6 months, 18 months, 3 years in, because you're seeing that path to freedom.
Yeah. What excites me is that what you said earlier about the trends moving towards the smaller types of businesses. That to me makes me feel very good because I mean, when it comes down to it, I think that the monopolies have been sort of like uh taken over, right? Really, in a lot of ways. And so, there's a lot of people trying to find a job, looking for these jobs. And jobs are getting harder and harder to find because of these big companies are finding more efficient ways to use technology to not use people, right? And so now you've got a bunch of people looking for these, few and far between jobs. However, there's a whole other area where you can start your own business and you can start your own thing. And if people are doing what I think you're right about they're looking towards, okay, well, maybe I don't want to support these big monopolies anymore. Maybe I want to support something a little bit more local. Well, then that means that there's infinite opportunities for us as long as we're willing to do something for ourselves and to serve our own local population, or even can be also on the internet. But if we can um, all sort of start to support these smaller businesses, then there's lots of opportunity for us to create our own path through creating our own business, right?
Couldn't agree more, right? The future is bright from an entrepreneurial standpoint. The barriers to entry are less and less all the time. There still are some barriers, of
Yeah.
course, always will be, and they'll change. But now more than ever, as a solopreneur, as a small group of people, as a team, you can get into the business and you can disrupt the market. There
Yeah.
are market disruptors and opportunities out there. And so, 100%, if you've got an idea, a dream, a vision, don't despise small beginnings. Carve out the time for that side hustle and just see what God might do.
And on top of that, it is so much easier now than it was to find help and to get people that are going to actually, help you along that journey. I mean, they're a Zoom call away now, or a face-to-face meeting, right?
That's right. That's right. Yeah. I mean, everyone should be thinking global and local all at the same time. Don't dismiss one for the other. It's a both and approach, not an either or. And most things are both and. We just get caught in either or thinking.
Yeah.
Um, so absolutely process and think that through.
Awesome. So, Brandon, it's time for you to guest solo. So, tell me more about what's exciting in your business.
Um, a couple things that are exciting are the investment in the next generation. We are going to see the largest wealth transfer in history. Right now, it's estimated at $3.1 trillion will transfer in the next 15 years from the boomer generation to the next generations. And it was supposed to be quicker and a little bit less, but because of COVID, boomers hung on, and probably rightfully so. And so now, time though is not their friend. Just to be candid, 67 is now 70, 70 is now 73. I've got to think through transition, and so what I'm most excited about is helping families in those extremes. So we work with a lot of boomers who are like, okay, I got to figure out, succession planning, wealth transfer, company transfer, next level of leadership. So we do a lot of work with transition and succession planning with the older generation. But then we do a ton of work. It's called Next Level Leader and Leader Up, where we help rising leaders, young leaders, and 25, 35, or they're like, hey, I have aspirations, goals, and priorities, but I don't have the tools in my tool belt.
Mm.
I don't know how to do communication, vision casting, self-discipline, self-awareness, conflict resolution, empathy skills, you name it, to where either A, I'm a person of influence, or B, I'm leading a team for the first time, or I'm leading a department for the first time. And so how do you level up? What does that look like? Whether it's in the context of a family-owned business and we're working with father, son, mother, daughter, what have you, or in a larger corporate environment, where that longtime CEO is now, hanging up the hat. And no one wants an example like Disney, right? Where that leader was not at the ready for whatever reason. Now Bob Iger's back in, same happened with Starbucks, the founder back in. And so much around investment, equipping, training, leadership skills, leadership acumen, on both extremes, right? Boomers transition it right, not fast, and leaders ready to take it
Wow.
and hopefully grow it and go from there. And so this transition is a decade transition, and not going away. And we are delighted to be on the forefront of helping many leaders on both ends of those spectrums lead and transition well.
So, if I'm listening to this podcast and I'm one of those two, what's the process of finding out more about you and about your business and about how you can help?
Yeah. Hey, Brandon Schaefer, just reach out. It's brandonschaefer.com, and Five Capitals is the organization. So you can go to fivecapitals.net, fill out an information card, just put my name in. and I'll get that email and follow up.
And so awesome, that's great. So you can either go to the company website, 5 Capitals, or you can go to brandonschaefer.com.
You got it.
Awesome, great. Well, thank you so much for rocking out with me today. This has been a really cool episode.
Absolutely. I've really enjoyed it. I love what you're doing here and honored to be a part of it.
Awesome. To the listeners, make sure you subscribe, rate, and comment, and we'll see you next time on the Work at Home Rockstar podcast.